Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market and trading video for Tuesday, the 24th of September. And the big story today was China. A lot of what I refer to as pin action in a lot of other areas. That's China's stimulus last night, causing a lot of up movement in various different groups. I'll go through some of those in this video, but before I do that, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purpose only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. So before I go into all of today's movers down here, in terms of what moved today, and there's certainly a lot of big movers. Let me just talk about the indices first and just a couple of the what I like to refer to as more macro. The VIX was down about 3% today. The dollar was down about a 0.5%. I think that's fairly good. Not a lot of movement in the indices, and that's kind of the last 2 days. But you did have the Qs outperform slightly. They finished up about a 0.5%. But again, very little movement happening with between 9:30 and 4 o'clock today. Small caps, micro caps actually outperformed. Again, not much going on there um, in the um, in the regular hours. Most of the movement coming once again in the after hours, which is just par for the course. That's how it normally is. And but overall, the breadth has been pretty good. We can kind of look at a couple things here in terms of, let's look at the SPY chart for a minute. So the two things that point out that I notice on the chart, well, maybe three. Number three is I believe that's a new closing high for the S&P. So that's number one. Number two, we're above the value area for September. So we're trending. And number three, we're also short-term trending and we're staying above this 5 period moving average. So while this goes on, we want to be a little bit cognizant of sentiment and a little bit cognizant of maybe some overheating. We're starting to see that in things like the put call ratio, which I think I have over here, right? The put call ratio just indicating that there is complacency in this market. This is not updated for today, but yesterday's equity put call ratio was all the way down at 0.49. Notice we got there as well in the middle of August, right? And then we did have a little bit of a pullback as we got to the beginning of September. So just something to bear in mind. But overall, and what we also tend to look for is divergences, to see as any warning signals. But I'll tell you, I'm not really seeing them. And when we look at the new 4 week new high, the S&P new 4 week highs versus new lows, I think that's also confirming. I don't think there's anything wrong with this per se. There's 124 new 4 week highs in the S&P today and 17 new lows. And when you look across this, right, and I'll bring this up over here, I think you could see, it's kind of interesting what's going on here. We've kind of seen a bit of a resurgence in some of the more higher beta or riskier areas of the market, such as consumer discretionary. A lot of new 4 week highs. That's a big expansion in consumer discretionary. We really haven't seen that. One constant that we've seen over the last couple of weeks is industrials, super, super strong. Yesterday, a lot of the industrials were more of the aerospace and defense companies, right? Aerospace and defense ETFs made a new high yesterday. Today they kind of took the day off, and it was more things like Caterpillar, Cummins, Dover. So more of your big industrials, and I think that's some of the pin action that I mentioned with China. There's got a few tech names in here, but not a huge amount, and every other sector is kind of the same thing. One area that's been lagging, probably two areas that have been lagging. You don't see consumer staples anymore on the new 4 week high list. There's only one of those, and I think that name got an upgrade either today or yesterday. Also, healthcare has really been absent. And if you look on the right, well, there's not a lot of new 4 week new lows. This is the red is for new lows. You could see healthcare has been picking up here in terms of that. So again, what does this give you? Why am I going over this? It just gives you a sense of where what's expanding, what's looking good, where's relative strength, where's some relative weakness, what's getting stronger versus what's getting weaker. And right now, the healthcare has been getting a bit weaker, but consumer discretionary is getting a bit stronger, and industrials, you've got plenty of strong breadth there as well. By the way, this note, you get this screenshot for 4-week new highs in the SPX and new lows every day in the Tribeca Trade Group Substack. So make sure if you're not subscribing to that, it's free. And if you want to see positions and so on and so forth, we do go into detail in terms of what I'm holding as well as what our watch list is, things that you have to be a member to see, but you get plenty of value in the free version. So I stopped at the Qs, right? And again, there's just not much, even though this has been going. You can look at this in terms of the 1 hour, because sometimes we do get just some clues off of the 1 hour. We've basically just kind of been drifting, drifting higher. The small dips get bought, and we'll see if that changes for now. Very interesting is what's happening with the Qs, right? So the Qs, if you remember, had a longer distance to go through the September value area. And we got there on Thursday of last week, the gap up. Since then, there's been a couple of attempts to break that September value area and just not there yet. So this is the closest attempt, I would say, because you're really getting the price action is starting to get really tight here. We did check off the top of the value area. I think that was earlier today. And so yeah, this 485.48 is the level to watch for now. Now there's some other levels to keep in mind, but that's another 2%. So really price action, if you're bullish tech and growth names, you want to see a push above this 485.48 level. IWM, which was lagging yesterday, really didn't do much today. I would keep in mind, and this is the only one that's inside value for the week. Qs are above value for the week. It's just so that you understand what I'm looking at here. If I didn't explain this, right? So we're at the top of the value area for the month. That's the gray box, and the yellow box is the value area for the week, right? And price is above the value area for the week. IWM is not. So watch 222.86 for this. One other thing too. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to talk about. So again, I'm trying to talk quickly, but Bitcoin is trying to lean higher here as well. It did get above the value area. It's still in this, what I've been referring to as this big channel that we've had in, but the upsize, I think, where we could, if this wants to continue to rally, I think it can go about another 3.6% above, and that's 66,710. And I think when you're looking at a couple of these Bitcoin names, I tend to like this one. This is something that we talked about a week ago, your breakout. This is both a little bit of Bitcoin and AI, and that made a new high today. The other names too, these are a bit aggressive names, but Wolf and so forth. And I think Mara's in a good spot. Mara is in a good spot in terms of just, looking for a move through the value area. Bullish 80% rule, 1770 would be the level there. All right, so I've gotten through a lot of this video, and I haven't even talked about China yet, but what a huge move. Again, big stimulus being announced in the overnight market. KWEB, the internet ETF, finished up 10% for a while. For a couple hours today, there wasn't much movement. All the price gains were happening in the after hours movement, but the KWEB, finally got going, I think around like 11 o'clock, and began to kind of trend for the day. Where did we see call activity today? We saw it in, what was it, TCOM? I think, or no, 10 Cent Music, which is, I think, TCE. Nope, I got the wrong symbol. TME, I believe. A lot of call activity in 10 Cent Music. Right, this is a low price stock. You got to have your resistance up at 480. And then the option activity I thought for the day yesterday was in this LI auto. So it's it's very close to getting to my target, which is 25. This is a position that we got involved in involved in yesterday. And again, I just really thought it was compelling. Every once in a while you'll see something like this where and by the way, they were going out to the December 25. So it wasn't weekly calls or anything like that we saw yesterday. But there's about 6,000 of the December 25 calls on the tape. As I mentioned in the room, and again, this is the Substack version that you do have to pay for, because I give I do give ideas, trade ideas, and yeah. So I got involved in this name yesterday with a price target of of right around 25. So again, we're almost there. I did take a target in this pre-market, right around I think $24, and then it continued to kind of, you can kind of see how this developed over the day. Right. A little bit, like I said, things didn't really get going till about 11 o'clock, where things started to progress past the open of the day. And, BABA is a name, of course, that a lot of people look at. And, here's a little bit of a dip on the open. So really this started to kind of grind higher. So where are these on the charts? We can kind of look. So if you haven't traded BABA at all and you want a stop, so first of all, we still have 3 more days of the week. We're looking at a weekly chart. I would make sure it closes above 95.65, and then you can kind of look to see if this thing is going to begin to kind of get out of its sideways range. I mean, this has been a nice move through the value area, and I actually went through the chart in this on Sunday. I was talking about China by chance. I said, hey, maybe it is I didn't know anything was going on, nor I did not put on a trade in the Chinese internet ETF, but I talked about this. I believe it was, let's see if I can just find this really quick. Yeah, here's the chart that I mentioned. It was just kind of turning the corner inside the value area. So I went over these over the weekend for members and talked about how you could trade this versus 25.90 if you wanted to get involved in the Chinese internet names. Again, did not know that they were going to have the this, and just like that, prices made it all the way through the value area for the year. So similar to BABA for KWEB, 29.67, that would be the level to watch. Now, of course, what's nice about this is when you talk about China's stimulus, it's not just the China names that are going to move. It's, the industrials, which have already been strong, saw some big moves in things like specifically companies that have exposure to China. So Caterpillar had a big day today. I did not have any Caterpillar, but have been long 3M. So that name also rallied quite nicely. So Caterpillar gap up. I would mind the gap. And you could also see how this gap lines up with the previous resistance over here, right around 377. So, maybe this continues to go. Again, some people, they get lost and they're like, what's happened in the last 5 or 6 days? And they're like, oh, geez, look at where it was. I should have bought it here at 360, 336. Well, make sure you zoom out a bit, because if you look, this really hasn't gone anywhere. If you look at the last peak, which is in April, right? This kind of just helps you formulate a little bit of a different opinion rather than just looking at the last week and saying, oh, I missed it. Because typically the breakout could just be getting going here in Caterpillar. And again, this kind of looks like a nice little like kind of cup and handle type thing, right? Here's your nice move. Here's your nice trend, right? Cup, right? A little bit of a handle here, kind of, and and now out to new highs. So as long as you set your stop like very close by, right around maybe 376, you don't really have to get just so wrapped up in, geez, I missed it type of thing. All right, but that was a nice move today. And Caterpillar, the casinos were also strong today. A lot of, I mentioned consumer discretionary expanded today. Some of these casino names have been pretty beaten up. Win made a nice move. So again, you don't have to, every one of these trades or excuse me, every one of these charts that I'm going over, you don't have to think about them in terms of investments. Some of them can just be trades. Watch that Caesar right around 41.37. And then also we've seen this huge gold breakout that has been taking place, over the last, specifically in the beginning of the month, we got the breakout and further breakout in gold, I should say, because gold has been acting well all year long. But for the first time, I've been kind of interested in silver. Silver, a pretty sideways looking chart over the last 3, 4 months. But I noticed this break higher. We also saw a nice call buyer in silver. And when you start looking across, so I did get long straight the SLV, and I did add some WPM in the TTG trend portfolio. But before I look at this, just go right to the silver miners ETF, and you could see they kind of look similar. Now this is going to have some things to kind of get through, some overhead supply, but overall, maybe you're starting to break this consolidation there and broadening pattern that you've got. I like WPM out of all these, and that's the weekly chart. But, take a look at what this has been doing over the last week and a half, a bit sideways. So the breakout may just be getting going there and things like that. So that's where I thought I was, I didn't really want to chase, like I mentioned, I was long LI Auto, which was up like 11% today, but I didn't really want to chase any of the other Chinese internet names, but I was definitely open to playing some of the things like silver today and, industrials as well. I tried a deer trade earlier, but it wasn't really going anywhere, so took that off. But there's your metals and mining. Also, the semis were a big story today. There's a couple things I think with the semiconductors. So first of all, I just wanted to go over the XME chart. Look at the support that this got into just a couple weeks ago. So this time I will look back because I don't know if I really want to go long the metals and mining, but that was a heck of a dip buy right into support here a couple weeks back. The semiconductors, let's talk about these really quick. And let's just look at the overall chart first, back above the 50-day moving average, which I think is a good first step. Resistance is going to be 251. Nvidia kind of stole the show today with this group. Also, Taiwan Semiconductor, very strong, but that's a nice move out of this. This was kind of coiled up here. The moving averages, three of these moving averages are kind of wrapped around one another, and really a nice move. And two things. So the CEO sounds like there's an article out by Barron's saying that the CEO is probably done with selling shares. But then you also have Micron earnings coming tomorrow. Now, I don't know what Micron's going to do for earnings, but you're already getting this run into earnings a little bit, right? And sometimes that's better because you're taking away a little bit of you don't know obviously what Micron is going to do on earnings, and they're implying a pretty big move. Last I checked, it was about a 9 or 10% move that they're implying for earnings. But price, there's some dip buyers out there right now. And so this has made a nice little run the last couple days. Maybe it has one more day into it, and you could sell it before you don't even have to worry about the event, right? And then you can kind of think about that. But I see resistance about right around 103 in Micron. Here's the chart of Taiwan Semi. Took out this virgin point of control here, but same thing, nice little consolidation. A couple traders in the room mentioned this one yesterday before the close, and nice gap up into this. I know some traders are talking about ARM too. You could definitely keep an eye on this one too because it's consolidating quite nicely. I would watch for ARM, basically the top of the range. Notice that it could not break through its value area last week. So, you could watch these candles and then look for some confirmation if it wants to continue above 145. All right, guys, that is it for now. Thanks for watching today's video. If this was of value to you, please like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You could also, as well, as I mentioned, Substack, you could get involved in our free version. It's ttdtrading.substack.com. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.